folks, welcome to the podcast When I Became a Gator. I'm your host, Vi Payulert, and I'm sitting down today with a very special guest. I'll let her introduce herself, but her name is Victoria, and she is an alumni of the University of Florida. And go ahead, Victoria, please introduce yourself to our listeners. Tell us what year you graduated, what you studied, and just a little quick history of what time you were at UF.
Sounds good. Hi, V, and everyone listening. Thank you for having me. I am truly honored to have the opportunity to sit down and talk to you all. I am an alumni. I graduated in 2011. I got my degree in journalism. And so I was there around 2011 through, a couple years before that. And then I stayed the spring after I graduated, and I moved to Boston for a little bit. And some of the best friends and memories that I have made were in Gainesville.
Yeah, +1 on that. I also just remembered when you were speaking about the years, it's also a lot of great memories for college football for me. I think those were the best college football team history years as well. So I'm glad we were able to experience that.
Oh my,
go ahead.
Yes.
What were you to say?
No, I mean, that is a big part of UF is the football in itself. And I totally agree. I think that was some of the just quintessential prime time, if you will. And so it was just extra special to get to be a part of it. And it just made it that much more fun.
Yeah, I'll segue into asking you, you did mention just now you studied journalism, but were you involved, what were you involved with on campus if you had time outside of your studies? And then also if you were involved or doing things off campus?
Yeah, so that is a really good question. When I was at school, I was a server at Bento Cafe, where you may or may not have been to the Bento Blue or the Bento Red back in the day. And, we always like to joke around that the thing about Bento is it became a club in itself, if you will. And I thought that was so cool because I remember visiting my friend who was a student at UF and worked at Bento Red. And I remember she's like, yeah, come through, come have a bite and meet my friends, meet my boss, so on and so forth. And I remember meeting Johnny during that visit, and lo and behold, he's become one of my really good friends throughout all these years. And it's just, you just think that you're signing up for a waitressing job, part-time to get you through school, but it truly became a extracurricular activity in itself. It was a community in its own. We had a lot of parties and gatherings, and it was a very special place to connect with other people that I'm still friends with. So it definitely felt like Greek life without being Greek life, if that makes sense.
That's a good analogy. Yeah, and I would also think we need to have Johnny on the podcast, but also just saying Bento had been around for a couple years prior to us being in school, right? It was only a couple years prior to that.
That's a really good question. Bento has been around for quite some time, actually. But, if we look at it now, it's grown into its own, I want to say, empire, because I think they're already at 20, if not more, locations all throughout Florida and in different states now. I see that they're in Atlanta and in Texas. And, it's really cool because I think to some form or another, I think Bento is a part of the UF experience for a lot of us. And I miss spicy cream chicken so much.
Yeah.
But that's what I really loved about bento is it was more than just a restaurant. You know,
Yeah.
it signifies so much because they would throw so many parties because their mentality has always been work hard, play hard, and they always gave back to the actual manpower behind the scenes. And it was just always such a fun collaborative experience to be a part of.
Yeah, and speaking about how you were involved with bento, but how did you use your experience or what you were studying, journalism communications, and how did you use those skills like after college and or even during college? Were you involved with like any kind of marketing or communications like roles in some organizations, or how did that translate to your like early career?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So in my um, years at UF, I got an internship at a small magazine in Gainesville, which is Our Town Publications. I was an intern for a semester. I also was a contributing writer for Insight Magazine and The Alligator, which is everyone's go-to student-run newspaper, right? It's such a good newspaper because there are hungry journalism students trying to deliver and research the news, which I still really am so grateful to have been a part of. And so I had a lot of those experiences to practice the journalism training that I had been getting at UF. And right after, and also there was another marketing internship that I had gotten during my time at UF. It was with a professor who was looking for help in his marketing company, and it was help with his social media. And at that time, this is like 2010. So social media had become a a player in its own right.
Yeah.
Nothing compared to what it is today. I know that so many things that I have learned, aside from the principles and values of journalism, that will always be, pretty standard, if you will. But when you talk about social media and just how dynamic it is, if it was talked about in our classroom then, a lot of it has changed because digital media today, what is so complex and great about it is it's constantly changing.
Yeah, that's incredible. And then it's just like so much has shifted in the last like 10 plus years. If you think about it, like what you were learning in the classroom, you're like, wait a minute, like sometimes now you like learn it on the job, but
Mm-hmm.
like who would have imagined just like how it evolved so quickly from that time?
Yeah, totally. And I will say, like, with the roles that I have had under the guidance of different professionals, whether that was at the internship with the Our Town magazine, working with the editor there, or just like working with the Alligator to pitch my stories and so on, all of that has definitely taught me the ability to be quick on my feet with how fast things are changing that I think that no one could really prepare you for. But I do feel like it's helped equip me to pivot just like how we've all had to pivot in this past year.
Yeah. And I had a follow-up question on that. Did you always know that you wanted to study journalism or like communications? Was that like something going into UF that you knew you wanted to study?
Yeah, V, that is a really good question. And I want to say that I am fortunate enough that from a small age, I have always been drawn to writing. You're either left brain or right brain. Math is not my thing. I admire everyone that that is great with numbers, but I've always been one to lean more towards the written word. And growing up, my dad did not want us to watch cable. We asked if we could get, cable TV. He refused, and instead he got my older brother and I a subscription to National Geographic. And in that moment, I was so upset. However, it actually planted the seed for me to have this growing affection toward the written word and stunning visuals placed together, because I remember at a small age being able to be taken away to places so far away while being in my living room, just because of how transformative words and pictures can be. And so that's kind of how it shaped who I am today, and also my interest and my passion. And so that kind of, I think, sparked my desire to get onto the middle school yearbook. And then high school, I also pursued being on the yearbook team, and senior year I was the editor-in-chief. And so at that point it just felt natural that journalism was my next step to further immerse myself into. So I am thankful that it's one of the things where I feel like I knew early on it's something that I wanted to do, more or less.
Yeah, that's amazing. I also did high school newspaper, and it was like the best time because we won like all these awards for writing, and I was like, this would be awesome, like to be an editor, one day. But my path turned and I did something else. But like some of even my friends who did yearbook with me or newspaper, they actually stayed in journalism and comms as well. So I always could look back and be like, what if? Words never came naturally to me, so I think that it was for the best.
Oh, let me be clear too. I humbly say that I have writer's block all the time. Like when I say it comes naturally, that does not mean that I like do not struggle with words. But let me just put it this way: I'd rather struggle with words than with numbers.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I think I took a little hard route that way, but I always wonder if I went back into UF, what other major I would have gone into. And I think it would definitely been in the journalism school and comms. Even though I always also loved advertising and like the graphic design school, I always was like, oh, this is really cool as well. But there's always so many things that you could learn.
Exactly.
I also wanted to ask you, you can share with our listeners, you mentioned earlier going to Boston after school, but yeah, can you just give us like a glimpse of what you did in Boston and then what you do now?
Yeah, that sounds good, Vi. So right after I graduated in December of 2011, in the spring, I moved to Boston. I was an editorial assistant at Pearson, which is a publishing firm, and I was on the information technologies list where I worked directly with the editor-in-chief, and we conceptualize textbooks with authors and teachers from start to finish. And I was exposed to the whole life cycle of a textbook. I think when you're in school and you have to buy the books and you are, going through it, I personally never sat and thought about how much goes into it. You almost resent it because they're so heavy, they're so expensive, and studying's not always particularly maybe the thing that you want to like dig into. But so it was really humbling to see it from a different perspective, if you will, talking to different college professors who adopted the book and learning about how they're teaching it and getting live feedback, and also talking to students, and also talking with the authors, right? And it was very cool because I was really amazed at the whole process, and I was exposed to all facets of what goes into it. I talked about the content creation, but there's also the legal side of it, dealing with royalties, and the customer service side of it, and also marketing. And so that was my first, I feel like, real life experience in what the marketing world was like. And out of all of those, I really gravitated towards that the most. And so I would take on more marketing projects and so on and so forth. And after being at Pearson for about 2 years, I wanted to get back into writing and also do it within marketing. And I found an opportunity outside where I applied for a digital marketing role for an online ad agency. And so there I was able to sharpen my writing skills and apply it in search engine optimization, which at that time was something that was brand new to me. I knew about it. However, I hadn't had the opportunity to really work alongside experts on the matter and figure out how to put together the best copy while also trying to rank within search engines, which had become the forefront of all of the marketing spend, just like how it is today alongside social media. So at that turn of my career, I was able to kind of dig into a more analytical side of writing and marketing, where I was able to combine the creative with the numbers, if you will. That's the one time that I will foray with numbers, if you will, is I will create content based off of data driven analytics to help me better expand and target certain demographics within different industries. And in that short time, I was able to work with a wide range of clients and different specialties, whether that was tractors, 3D printing, small mom and pop shops, retail. And with each client, you have to learn right away the language, the need, so that you can better speak to the target audience, which changes.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. And so that was a really good learning experience to kind of pick up all those skill sets and kind of sharpen more specifically within my writing what I wanted to do with that. And after picking up those skills, I went into freelancing as a digital marketing specialist. And then I moved back to St. Pete and I took a role with corporate Bento, actually, as their marketing public relations specialist. And that was very gratifying to get to help grow your own roots and to reconnect with friends all at the same time.
Yeah, totally.
And yeah. And then I moved to Los Angeles in 2019. I was the digital marketing manager for a wholesale fashion company in the fashion district downtown. A year later, after the whole world changed, which is mid-March of last year, I decided to switch to nonprofit to fuse my background in digital marketing and my passion for serving the community, and have been at the LA Regional Food Bank ever since.
Yeah, which is amazing. And you did give me a little brief of like how many families and individuals that the LA Food Bank like serves. And just for numbers sake, as we're talking about numbers earlier, just tell our listeners how many like incredible numbers, but like how many families are you guys able to feed? I think it was a week. You told me a week or a month, I think, depending on your stats. But I want you to share like with listeners, like it's amazing how many people you're able to help and serve.
Yes. So just to put it into perspective, before the pandemic, the LA Regional Food Bank and our partner agencies served 300,000 clients in a month. And now we are at 900,000 individuals in a month.
That is incredible, like an incredible number. Like, I don't even
Yeah,
know that many people in general. Like, where do they all live?
I know. And in LA County, it's a very dense population. It's an area of need, but also it's been an area of overwhelming support that has come through, that has allowed the food bank and our partners to continue the critical work during a time where people need it the most. And it's been very heartwarming to witness that compassion, especially during a very trying year for so many, and to be reminded that we're all connected. And that
Yeah.
is the beautiful part of it all. And just to feel the unity, that's been very gratifying for me, because we could not do it without the kindness of others, when you
Exactly.
simply
Yeah.
put it like that.
Yeah, that's incredible, just how many individuals you're able to serve, and applaud you and the organization and the whole team to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It takes a whole village to take care of another village, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just wanted to ask you some like last thoughts. I think you definitely shared your range of experience and like what, kind of shaped your path after UF. What advice would you share with current students or alumni like looking for, a career move, but just for current students, like what would you say to like really challenge themselves and take advantage of while they're at UF?
Yes, V. I really like this question, actually, because this is something that someone told me while I was at UF, and I always try to pass that information on. I think the biggest thing is, as a student, reach out as much as possible, because being a student at UF grants you so many opportunities in itself. And then the great thing about our school is they are very forthcoming about setting you up with resources and setting you up for success. It's just, you also have to put in the work, right? So you don't want to take that for granted. And there are so many opportunities that are made specific just because you are a student at UF, whether that's an internship or a chance to connect with someone that is in an industry that you're curious about. So many people in the Gator Nation are so happy to help and to pay it forward. So I think that is a missed opportunity, because I get it. Like, when you are a student, you're super busy. Like, you know what I mean? And so, like, just the thought of putting in any extra work, like,
Mhm.
it's definitely daunting, but look at it as an investment, and like, start networking now when you are surrounded by so many potential connections. You just have to be open to it.
Yeah,
And
totally
so,
plus one on that. Yeah.
yeah, like, because the moment that, I mean, not that, like, you're going to be left alone in the dark once you leave UF, but I think a lot of people don't realize, when you are currently enrolled as a student, there is so much within reach. You just have to look for it and take action. Like, do not let that go to waste. Like, there are many, like, scholarships, internships, whatever it is, that are made available just because you are attached to UF. So you do not want to regret taking advantage of it while you can. And also for alumni, I think more or less the same message. I think a lot of us get in our head and we defeat ourselves before we even try, type of thing. But at the end of the day, more often than not, I think that if there is another person that you are interested in talking
Mm-hmm.
to,
Yeah.
they're 9 out of 10 times going to be happy that you reached out to them, and more than, I feel like they would want to be kind and pay it forward. And that's my personal experience. I've only been met with kindness, and I feel it's kind of the Gator way to be nice.
Yeah. Or pay
And
it forward. Yeah.
yeah, and it's just like, if you and that particular person that you are trying to connect with don't necessarily vibe, you will end up having a new connection in a new field that you didn't before.
Mm-hmm.
And even if like you can't make um a an obvious connection right then and there, somehow, some way, they'll know someone or you'll know someone that you can eventually link. And
Exactly. Yeah.
that's how I've seen networks thrive and grow. And networking is putting in that work, and it's always something that is worthwhile, and I feel like it benefits everyone involved.
Yeah, and I would also piggyback off of that and say that even though some folks might not be as extrovert or introvert, I think that like the life or more introverted, sorry, like the connections and the friends and or just acquaintances that you make while you're in Gainesville or while you're at UF do take you through to the rest of your career, because you never know, like Victoria said, you might run into these people, you might end up being coworkers, you might end up in the same city, who knows, but really, like the saying is true, Gator Nation does extend just beyond Gainesville. So definitely take advantage of that while you have all these very like-minded or very similar people around you and studying and or with your work or and your internships, but really take advantage of that as well. I want to thank you, Victoria, for joining me tonight. It was, we're recording in the evening, but thank you for joining me. It's been a really fun conversation just to like get to know a little bit about you. But I just wanted to thank you again for sharing your story with us on the podcast. For those who are listening, if you're interested in learning more, take a look at the show notes of this episode, where you can listen to us on Spotify, Anchor, and Apple Podcasts. But on behalf of the UF Association of Asian Alumni, thank you for listening to When I Became a Gator podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast wherever you find this episode. And thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you for having me.